Welcome to Capital Questions Business on TVP World. I'm your host, Marie Kato, and I'm delighted to be here at the EU Parliament in Brussels with you. Poland wraps up its rotating presidency of the European Council, and we're here to reflect on what Poland has brought to the table over these 6 months, but also the challenges that Poland has had to face. Because no one can deny that Poland's presidency fell during a time of numerous and unexpected geopolitical events, regionally and internationally. It's enough to look at the weekend just gone. On tonight's show, we want to assess Poland's leadership of the Council of the European Union, but we also want to look ahead into the future and understand the EU's economic priorities. The European dynamic is shifting, and member states are increasingly aware that their individual needs are changing too. But before we get to that, let's set the scene with this report.
As June ends, so does Poland's 6-month presidency of the Council of the European Union. Under the slogan Security Europe, Poland focused on strengthening the EU's resilience, and in many ways, it delivered. Poland's standout achievement was securing EU recognition and long-term support for the Eastern Shield, a strategic plan to reinforce up to 800 kilometers of Poland's and the EU's eastern border with new military and civil infrastructure. Poland also championed the creation of SAFE, a €150 billion fund to help EU countries buy military hardware jointly and provide a boost to their arms industries, which have long been in hibernation. This focus on security comes at a time of growing geopolitical pressure prompted by Russia's war in Ukraine, shifting alliances, and rising global competition, forcing the EU to become more self-reliant and more united. That message was echoed last year in Mario Draghi's Competitiveness report, when the former European Central Bank chairman urged massive investment in the green, digital and defence sectors Europe has fallen behind in. And the numbers tell the story. The EU grew only 1% last year, lagging behind the United States and China. While Bulgaria's move to join the euro marks progress toward deeper European integration, some member states, including Poland, continue to hold off, a decision that has benefited the country. While some economists say it has dampened investment. There are also some disagreements with the EU's green policy. While the EU is leading on climate action, a few members now want to delay the looming ETS2 emissions trading system for carbon pricing, worried about the costs for households and businesses. High energy costs and the drive to eliminate Russian fossil fuels by 2028, a policy strongly supported by Poland, will make that transition even more challenging. As Poland hands over the reins, the EU stands at a crossroads. Can it stay united and ambitious, or will internal divisions stall its momentum?
So lots there to unpack from that report, and I'm delighted to welcome 3 wonderful guests to our discussion today. Thank you for being here with us. I'd like to welcome Željana Zovko, a member of the European Parliament from Croatia, representing the European People's Party, while best known for her work on foreign affairs and the Western Balkans. She is also active in the EU's debates on economic resilience and strategic investment, especially when it comes to Europe's role in fragile regions. I also welcome Francesco Papadia, Senior Fellow at Bruegel and former Director at the European Central Bank. He led ECB market operations during the financial crisis and today focuses on fiscal policy, inflation, Eurozone reform, and yes, the Draghi report too. And last but not least, I welcome Witold Strzelecki, Managing Director of Business and Science Poland, the largest association representing Polish companies in Brussels. Thank you very much for joining us. And now moving on to our discussion. I wanted to first begin, obviously, with the Polish presidency, and it's only natural, really, to start with Witold Strzelecki here. The Polish presidency, how has Poland really fared and performed over these 6 months? I'd like to begin with you and your business perspective, obviously.
Yes. So from the business community perspective, I think that it definitely was a good presidency, what we have seen so far. I think that the priorities that were identified by Polish government while preparing for the presidency, meaning putting the security, including the economic security, on the top of its agenda, was a very timely decision and very important. So this, of course, aligns with what we see from the Commission, what we see from the Parliament. and it's definitely a good starting point. So I would say that in terms of approach towards business, while now we can see that competitiveness is the name of the game in this town, it definitely shows that the work done by the Polish presidency that will hopefully continue for the next months and years will bring added value that we will all be able to benefit from while we want to compete with what was presented in this footage with China, with the US. So definitely more has to be done in order to catch up or even become more competitive vis-a-vis our global competitors.
Željana, a question to you, but where is the EU, if we take a step back, in terms of political will, united strategy and economic investment? It sounds like a mouthful, but really without these three pillars, can real progress be made?
But we have a will, we have a political will as a European People's Party. We have also our commissioners, a commission that is acting strongly towards the goals that we have set, and that is following the Draghi report to implement recommendations and to become, in this geopolitical volatile time, at least a power, global power that can compete with the others that are presenting at this time also unreliable partner for European Union. We are at the moment quite happy with the Commission's work, but the speediness is also one of the factors that is left to be also improved, because our businesses need much more effective approach to all the agreements that we have made with the Commission, and regarding the political coalitions that we have made in this Parliament. I'm also Vice President of European People's Party. We have made the decisions that on the content we are asking for all the support that we can get in European Parliament, because we are the largest parliament after the Indian Parliament, directly elected by our citizens. And we need to reflect the citizens' will as well, to be competitive, to keep the jobs here in European Union, to have our strategic sovereignty in a way, and also to invest in our defense and security. And nothing will be possible without
defense and security. Francesco Papadia, I want to bring you in here and ask you, to what extent do you think that the Polish presidency has been shaped by the unprecedented geopolitical events that happened during this 6-month period?
Well, it would have been very odd if it would not have been shaped, because events are so...
Or challenged, shall we say.
So extreme that, of course, I mean, this is affecting the entire Europe, and that was reflected in the Polish presidency. Now, if I can introduce a little historical background here. Now, we are in the middle of the crisis. Nobody doubts that. And that's a crisis which has more than one dimension. I mean, geopolitical, economic dimension. Of course, there is in the background the climate issue. But this situation of being in a crisis is not at all a new situation for Europe. I mean, in a way, if you look at the history of Europe, that's a history of crisis. I mean, I've just counted the crisis over the last 40 years, and excluding the current one, there have been 12. So every 3 years, more or less, Europe gets into a crisis. And the good thing, the good omen, the good precedent is that Europe has not only managed to surpass the crisis, but go beyond the crisis. So the situation after the crisis was better than the situation before the crisis. So it not just survived, but it grew in many ways. Of course, it's easy to transform this statement into complacency. Oh, yes, I mean, we have always been in a crisis, we will manage as we have done in the past. No, that would be the wrong attitude, because every time surpassing a crisis required an effort, required innovation, required going beyond the specific interest and looking at the more general interest. And so this is what is needed now, and this is what I think the Polish presidency is doing. I do have some issues that maybe I would have liked to be more stressed and emphasized.
Well, could you tell us about them?
Okay, well, there are two issues. One is more general, and the other is more specific, more related to my own area of interest. The more general one is that, yes, of course, we need security, yes, we need safety, yes, we need more growth, but Europe should also become the leader of the world that wants to continue with multilateralism, that want to continue with liberalism, that want to continue with not a system based on force, but a system based on law. And of course, this is very important in the trade area, because we now see a movement away from all what has been done since World War II in terms of liberalizing trade. And Europe should be the champion of maintaining this multilateral order on trade. And this is my first point. My second point, there is a project which I think everybody says is very important. Everybody says would have a very strong positive impact in many areas. And this is what used to be called Capital Market Union and is now called Saving and Investment Union. And
this was raised in the Draghi report.
Yeah, that's in the Draghi report. And that has been said for 10 years now, with increasing pitch of voice, and yet so little has been achieved.
I'm sure that Witold has something to say to that.
Yes, I agree with that. And I would, in general, if we also talk about the Draghi report, that I think it's a good starting point. Definitely what Draghi did is identifying rightly those challenges that we have to face with the innovation gap, those dependencies on third countries, the need to combine the decarbonization process with the competitiveness and increasing the competitiveness of our European Union. So definitely there's something that has to be addressed. But I agree that more has to be done. So it's the moment on paper when we like some of these ideas, it's good. But instead of just talking the talk, we need to walk the walk. We need to start really working on implementing those ideas, rolling up our sleeves and getting to the hard work. Because theory and practice is the same only in theory, right? So it's really now is the moment, which I believe that based on the Draghi report, the European Commission and the European Parliament have already kick-started the work, but now we really have to move forward as quick as possible with really rolling out those directives, regulations that will help address some of those challenges that are being identified in the Draghi report. So we have to move from planning to the actual doing.
Absolutely. We need to up our game, in other words. We're going to move on to the Draghi report. And now I'd like to begin by playing a soundbite from Mario Draghi, the author of the report himself. Let's listen to the statement from him.
The point is that we have to understand we are becoming ever smaller relative to the challenges we face. For the first time since the Cold War, we must genuinely fear for our self-preservation. And the reason for a unified response has never been so compelling. And I am confident that in our unity, we will find the strength to reform. Thank you.
So I'm going to direct my first question to you, sir. Why did the report fade so quickly? When it first came out, it was such a massive milestone, both for the EU. As a journalist myself, we were covering it over and over again. And it seemed to have faded from the EU agenda very, very quickly.
Well, I hope this is not the case. Of course, I mean, many of the things, or maybe most of the things that are in the Draghi report could not be made in the matter of months or even quarters. I mean, and of course, I mean, we have to recognize, and there is some beauty in it, that the machinery, the decision-making machinery in Brussels, I mean, the European decision-making machinery is considerate. I mean, it's not quick. I mean, there is a lot of reference to the fact that Xi Jinping or Mr. Trump can decide the things very quickly, but they can also make mistakes very quickly. While in Europe, we are more considerate and it takes more time. So I would not say that the Draghi report is no longer the direction into which we should move. And of course, the Draghi report is very rich. I mean, it's 400 pages, so there is a lot into that. So I do still believe that this can be the way, but again, I will come to my non-complacency point. This requires recognizing that there are very big benefits that we can achieve in the aggregate if we manage to surpass parochial, specific sort of interests that are in one or the other part of the European Union. And if I can add a comment here, I think that this is very much a responsibility for the European Parliament, for the European Commission, for the Council of Ministers, because there is where the awareness of the big aggregate benefits is stronger.
Željana, now I wanted to ask you, in your work and in your experience, do you think that the Draghi report is still a viable way forward, and from a really practical, hands-on perspective?
The Draghi report, it's a very good inspiration, but you must, as a journalist, understand that this is a challenging and changing time. And politics is art of possible, and also art of making deals that we see now with the new administration in the United States. You said that China and United States are making decisions. They can make decisions quick, and they can make mistakes, but still sometimes it's better to make a decision, make mistakes than not to make any decision at all. But in these challenging times, I'm afraid we came to the position to explain to our citizens that interest of the whole Europe. First of all, we agree on one thing: security is a key issue. We decided to invest into rearm Europe. We decided to make the instrument safe Europe, which is, I congratulate the Polish presidency, under the Polish presidency. So this will give a boost to our industry. This will also cut the red tape to our small and medium businesses, and also encourage production in the European Union. The competitiveness is a key word nowadays in European Parliament. But all of this has to go hand in hand with the needs from different political groups in the European Parliament. There's lots of explanation, lots of convincing the other groups to go along with us in this endeavor, because European Parliament is made of different groups, different ideologies, different interests, and it's not parochial interests. We have a council as well. We had different elections, that we have also populist government, like in Slovakia and in Hungary. We have and also we have interest of small and big sizes, a big state in European Union. European Union is a big project. But
I'm sensing a little bit of skepticism from you in regards to the Draghi report, that there are other priorities at the moment.
Of course. I mean, there's no skepticism. It's just reality. We are living in a world of artificial intelligence. I mean, everything is changing so quickly in the world that we cannot stick to one report, or we cannot stick to one book. I mean, I give all my appreciations to Mr. Draghi, and I knew him as a great man, and the report was maybe done at that time excellently. But I did the preventive diplomacy report, and now we are on the verge of a great war that was adopted here in the European Parliament. So we have to adapt ourselves to the times that even Commission, bureaucracy, and all our politicians are getting along with the jungle out there, and with the changing times, and also the media. we cannot stick to, it's not the Bible, it's not a rule of the Bible. We have to be flexible. We have to take everyone on board. And I understand that it's nice from European Central Bank to consider why we don't have all these investments. But you also have to understand when we go to our constituency that they're also asking for us to deliver back something to them. What have we done for our constituency? We are, as parliamentarians, going every week back home, and we have to say, what is Europe doing for them to keep their jobs, to keep their safety, to preserve their strategic sovereignty in food and in all areas, in education, and also in respecting the workers' right, and also to stop migration. All these have to be taken into account. It's not just one facet or one report that we have to think about when we are thinking how to deliver and how to compete with China and with the other superpowers.
Absolutely. Now I'd like to talk a little bit about the Green Deal, but not just
But sorry, I just wanted to say something about multilateralism. I do agree that we have to respect multilateralism. I used to cover multilateral organizations. I was in my previous life. But I think that we never access seriously to reform of multilateral organizations that are being hijacked by those who are now using them for their own logistics. So we don't have a same level playing field when it comes to China, when it comes to all these countries that are not, democracies. And this is something that we have to take into account when we are thinking about multilateralism. Multilateralism means that multilateral world, and we are only relying on a rules-based order. But we have to have a same level playing field, and we have to seriously engage with our transatlantic partners in reform of multilateral organizations. Otherwise, we will be really overtaken by some other powers.
Absolutely. I sense we could have a very, very long discussion just about multilateralism, but there are so many other angles that I would like to cover with all three of you. And I'd like to move on to talk about the Green Deal, or climate neutrality, however you prefer to call it, versus growth. So I would like to get to a soundbite from Ursula von der Leyen. So let's tune into that.
The transition to a net zero economy is essential for prosperity. I want to be very clear. The European Union stays on course for the Green Deal objectives without any question. This is a unique strength we have, and we must provide predictability for clean tech investors and companies. More than 1/5 of the world's clean technologies are developed right here in Europe. We will support this automotive industry through also the deep transition they are undergoing, and we will ensure that the future of cars remains firmly rooted in Europe.
So the EU has presented achieving climate neutrality as one of its greatest ambitions, but it has proven to not be as easy as we all thought it would be, especially if we want to implement it alongside industrial competitiveness. And I wanted to ask you, Željana, on your comments regarding the rising public frustration, because I think that is undeniable. There is economic fatigue. There is an increasing growth of overall skepticism in a multifaceted way. Where is this stemming from, and why? And how do we deal with that?
It's coming back from the being out of touch with reality, especially from the objectives that we have laid out. And I've been here for 9 years, and I know in the last mandate we were warning about some of the objectives that we have posed. They are quite idealistic. They're theirs to be completed.
Can you just elaborate which bits are idealistic?
Car industry is completely destroyed in European Union, and this is something for us that is incredibly worrying. I mean, we have a Germany that was the biggest car producer in European Union, and now their industry is on its knees. We have also the fact that we don't have infrastructures for electronic cars. And we have rural areas that are not going to respond to the objectives that we have set in front of them. So who is going to profit from all of this if we are not flexible towards the needs of our citizens and also of our industry? This is the facts are that sometimes the issues that we are discussing here in Brussels and in certain circles are completely out of touch with realities and also out of touch of the level of the development in European Union. So we have, Poland, we have Eastern Europe that is not on the same level of development as opposed to the Western Europe, and they don't have the same needs. I think that we have to have these facts taken into account when we are discussing how have we developed, how have we really implemented what we have promised. So I know that maybe today we have lots of disillusioned people from the part of the Green groups in European Parliament, but still this is not a la-la land, it's a reality, and in order to stay focused on a real democracy in European Union and to adjust to the needs of all the citizens and also to take away our citizens from the populist movements, we have to face reality on these issues.
Well, looking at the realistic side, Witold, are Europeans willing or still able to fund the Green Deal?
I think we have to, and I will start with defending Mr. Draghi, that what he, in my opinion, rightly identified. He said that the EU as a main challenge is to combine the issue of climate neutrality with competitiveness. He mentioned that we need a joint roadmap for decarbonization and climate neutrality. And I think this is the key in this process. I don't believe that there is this narrative often that it's either climate neutrality or economic growth. It's either sustainability or competitiveness. I don't think it's a zero-sum game. So those two elements can go hand in hand, right? So if they are tailored in a very realistic way that takes into account the needs of the economy, we can achieve it, right? So I would say on this topic, it is possible, but we have to make a reality check and make sure not only where we go, meaning climate neutrality in 2050, but also how to get there. And as a representative of the Polish business community, I have this message very often here in Brussels. I say that we are ready to participate in this decarbonization process. We are ready to contribute to achieving climate neutrality. But in order to do so, we really need that those policies will take into account the needs, like you said a little bit. Each country has a different circumstances, different starting point, different challenges that have to be taken into account. So I think it's possible to do it, but in the process, we really have to support and make sure that this is also seen as a kind of growth opportunity, a business opportunity for European companies, for Polish companies, and not just to avoid a situation where going to climate neutrality will lead us to deindustrialization, right? Because I think we can all agree that this is not the direction we want to achieve, because then it will have an impact on the society, on citizens, on our position in the world. So this is why I was saying at the beginning that we really need now to focus on how to deliver, and in delivering to make sure that we go hand in hand with decarbonization and strengthening the competitiveness of the European economy.
Francesco, Papadia, I want to talk about, because I sense we're heading into this narrative that really the EU needs to take a little bit of a reality check. So not necessarily move away from its original goals, but we need to take a little bit of a reality check. And one of the criticisms of the Draghi report was that it didn't necessarily address the needs of the agricultural sector, that there weren't very clear recommendations for that sector. And I wanted to hear your opinions regarding that, because the EU agricultural sector is a little bit frustrated, to say the least.
Well, I think agriculture, of course, has been, since the beginning of the European Union, the most important part of it. I mean, in terms of funding, I mean, and over the years, this has come down somewhat. But what is the reason for this? I mean, why is this so? Well, I think because in a way it's a relatively easy path to protect the agriculture, and it doesn't cost so much that the rest of the economy would rebel against this kind of protection. Of course, some amount of protection is needed. We don't want to come to a situation where we are completely dependent. I mean, we have seen what has happened with gas with Russia. We don't want this to happen again with agricultural products. But I think that over the decades, really, there has been an awareness that the effort of Europe to remain competitive, to grow, to develop, to really be an actor on the world scene requires moving the emphasis away from agriculture, which at the end is doesn't have a lot of innovation, to areas which have more innovation. So I understand that this is not easy, especially because it has been going on for so long. But I'm afraid that if Europe is serious about growth, about development, about being an actor, this is unavoidable.
Zovko, I wanted to ask you, do you feel that the EU still remembers its farmers? That sounds like a very blunt question. At the moment, we don't have any epic protests. We don't have tractors out on the streets. I'm sure that time will come again. But do you feel that the EU remembers about its farmers?
I don't know about.
Do they feel supported right now?
I don't know about farmers, but I'm in the fishery committee, and I know with the new commissioner who took into account all our concerns. I mean, we are reporting.
So the fishermen are happy.
I mean, they're still not happy, but I mean, we are importing 70% of our fish, and I live in Croatia, in Dalmatia, in a Split. And I tried in last term to protect our fishermen, and they was telling them that that they were not investing in the Commission in the renewal of our fleet. They didn't take into concern our their grievances. But in this term, as I said already, we are dictating the pace of the Commission in order how to approach the fishermen, the farmers, and to take into concern what they're worried about. I mean, farmers and the fishermen, they're backbone of our life, of families, our rural life, demography. I mean, I remember in the 90s, I was a student in London, and there was this famous book, Thin Air Economy. I mean, what about thin air? Are we going to produce a thin air? Like, and this failed in UK because the whole the industrialization of United Kingdom brought only the misery and the class that was not working for generation. So we have to think about the families and the agriculture. We have to think about fishermen. We have to think about how to provide for them. And my party, European People's Party, is a farmers' party. So,
So what does that mean for the Mercosur trade agreement?
We made sure in the Mercosur trade agreement that there is no concerns for the farmers, not for the French farmers, and all this.
What about the Polish farmers?
Not for the Polish farmers either, and not for the Croatian farmers either. These are the facts that we have talked. I mean, also in INTA, in a trade committee, in our discussion with Commissioner Šefčovič, we were assured that there are specifics that guarantee absolutely that they will not be damaged in this agreement. There will be beef that is typical for Mercosur and that is not up to the standards maybe that European farmers can provide. But the other, that also will be imported in a limit number. But the whole spectrum for our agriculture products is opening in this market, in the Mercosur. For the benefits for our exports there are matching also the risks that that are posing for the competition for our farming industry.
Okay, we started with the Polish presidency. We're going to wrap up with the Polish presidency. So a final question for you, Witold. Did the Polish presidency just deal with crises, or did it actually lay the groundwork for the future presidency that is coming up and for the EU?
I think both, and I also agree that in general in the EU we go from one crisis to another, but I think that Poland did really well. So on one hand dealing with the crisis, but on the other hand really laying the foundation for the upcoming work, also taking into account that it aligns with the beginning of the new political cycle. The Commission was launched on the 1st of December, right? So it's aligned perfectly with the start of the Polish presidency. So I really believe that some of the work and some of the topics that the Polish presidency focus on, decided under the security umbrella, will be continued. So to give you one example, really what was important for the Commission and also for the Polish presidency, the whole simplification agenda, right? Meaning that really rightly identified that one of the greatest challenges that we have to face is making sure that the business, we can unlock the potential of the business, but by also removing some of the administrative burden, regulations, deregulation or simplification, I would rather say. So this is something that Poland really focused on. Just yesterday, the Council agreed on their position of those two major files, CSRD and CSDDD. But now the work will be continued by Denmark, right? So I think that this is like, hopefully it will be continued. And I really believe that Poland did whatever it could, keeping in mind the framework, right? Also on the presidency and what the concept of presidency allows member states to do it. I think it was used to the fullest. So hopefully now Denmark will take over and will work on those topics with the same approach.
And this concludes Capital Questions Business, marking the end of the Polish presidency in 2025. Thank you so much to our guests, Željana Zovko, Francesco Papadia, and Witold Strzelecki. And thank you to our audience and to our viewers. I was your host, Marie Kato, and it's been a pleasure being with you. Goodbye from Brussels.